Hello, you amazing people. You're listening to the Marketing and Coffee Podcast, the show that brings you the latest in marketing, especially in the UAE market, with your host, Lijo Etup.
Welcome to another episode of Marketing and Coffee Podcast with Lijo. Today I have Srikanth Tirupati, who is the head of e-commerce, Middle East, Turkey, Africa, and Pakistan. That has got 12, 14 countries and markets between them, Srikanth?
That's right. 12 countries, but 14 markets, yeah.
Okay, interesting.
And we divided by franchisees. So some countries have more than one franchisee.
Okay. So then, So I think it's like almost replicating a distribution system of online. He is a postgrad from New York University Stern School of Business. Welcome to the podcast, Srikanth.
Thank you for having me, Lijo.
Cool. So your LinkedIn profile talks about investment banking to e-commerce of a QSR brand. That's quite a thing in the meter. So how did you go about from investment banking to coming to e-commerce of a QSR brand?
I think the journey for me was more personal nature than strategic. Okay. So when my father passed a few years ago, almost 8 years ago now, our goal was how do we stay closer to family? And I'm from India. How do I stay closer to family? And I had been looking for opportunities in this part of the world. And when my wife actually got an opportunity in this part of the world, in Dubai, actually, we jumped at it and we moved here. So it has been an interesting journey. And Dubai was a natural choice because looking at it afar when we were in the US, we thought it seemed as an advanced financial market. I was working in the financial services industry. It seemed as an advanced financial services market. And I thought it would be easy to jump on board, come here, find a job and kickstart my life without much of a, scramble. But as it turns out, Dubai is a very interesting market. It wasn't as advanced as the US or London in terms of its financial services capabilities. And I had a real struggle actually first few months trying to find a role until I ended up with a product management job at Noon.com. So it was an interesting, and subsequently Noon had restructuring internally, and I was looking for a job again. And I found that one of my friends actually from London Business School happened to be working at Pizza Hut, who introduced me to the role, which I'm in currently.
Interesting. Not an easy category in terms of food, and maybe COVID has fastened the process. So how easy or difficult is it to sell pizzas online? Considering that from a consumer's point of view, I'd rather go to a marketplace like Zomato, Talabat, or Deliveroo. With your own e-commerce, how easy or difficult is it to sell pizza online?
Great question. First of all, from a channel perspective, you have to be where the customer is. So if that means that the customers are at a marketplace, they have to be on the marketplace. And partnership with marketplaces is pretty much a necessity nowadays. As for any brand, knowing your customer and providing the customers with ease of access to the brand in a multitude of channels is very important. If you look at the marketplaces that are in existence throughout the markets that I manage, there's no one dominant player that says they cover 90% of the population in the country or anything like that. Most of the aggregators actually have significantly small portions of customer base within the countries that they operate. So it's doubly more important to have to provide customers access to other channels. So if a customer is on the web, you want to provide a website for the customers. If the customer is on WhatsApp, you want to aspire to provide a channel to transact on WhatsApp and so on. So that ease of access comes from a multitude of channels. And you have to be in all of the channels. Nowadays, it's not even a choice of which one am I on. It's about which one are the customers on. Number two, it's not a question of easy or not easy. It's upon us as the service providers to make it easy for customers to buy from us. Whether or not it's easy for us to sell online is not a question that I think about. The question that I think about often is how do I make it easy for our customers to buy from us?
Yeah. Does your responsibility become your own platform, or that you also includes any other, or even the marketplaces too?
No, currently my responsibility is own platforms only. Okay. Obviously, as the margins tend to be different because marketplaces tend to have a service charge associated with them, the business also wants to partner with marketplaces at the same time provide online channels as well.
Interesting. So on that line, I guess you recently tried dabbling into a loyalty program which you launched in Kuwait. So do you think it's going to bring in more people onto your own platform compared to the own thing? Or do you think is it a differentiator in the first place? And do you feel it's going to create a long lifetime value, higher lifetime value than now?
Another great question. The answer is both, really. Now, there are two parts to this answer, if I may. First, let's talk about it from a customer's perspective. If you look at the evolution of e-commerce, if you can just take a step back and look at that, it has come a long way, right? Over the last decade or so, or 2 decades, it has moved from merely publishing a website to providing a service that the customers like and want. And as an example, customers today might want to use a mobile app. And the question is, are you providing a mobile app or you're not providing a mobile app? So customers today expect, and in fact, maybe demand, a higher sense of interest in them from brands like ours that they shop with. And I think it's a natural choice or evolution that has happened. Now, the interest in a specific product for customers may come in terms of a plethora of e-commerce features. It's not restricted to one such as loyalty, but a multitude of features. So for example, like I was saying a minute earlier, I'm a customer who likes to shop using mobile apps. And the question for any company that I transact with is, does your company offer a mobile app? I recently engaged with a bank in the UAE, and their mobile app experience was bad. So I, in fact, changed banks because my experience was so bad. Even though the core competency of the bank was not mobile apps, it's providing financial services, me as a customer prefer to transact on mobile apps, and that was an important feature for me. And similarly, there may be other questions that customers ask. And throughout the customer journey, the question that we constantly have to look at is, are we making it easy for our customers to A, purchase, B, come back to us, and C, purchase a lot more, right? Those are the three things that we want. We want to increase the recency, frequency, and monetary value of customers. And by helping the customers with that ease of access, we help all three. If you look at it from the second perspective, which is the brand's perspective, there is a large segment of customers who identify themselves with one brand or another brand. So I can give you an example, Coke versus Pepsi. I'm sure there would be wars that would rage on which brand is better, I'm sure, amongst the hardcore fans. And as such, every brand would, depending on their focus on customers and how they drive it, would drive a certain sense of loyalty towards the brands for their customers. And when they do drive that, the question is, do you want to reward that loyalty, or do you want to just treat them as any other ordinary customer who may be a one-time visitor to the brand? And my personal perspective is that reward is actually a good thing, because again, that will impact the recency, frequency, and the monetary value of customers. And that's the reason from both the brand perspective and a customer perspective, that we launched a mobile app loyalty program in Kuwait. Of course, if you just look at it from a basic human nature perspective, we all like rewards, right? We want to win stuff. We want to know that we are being rewarded for the actions that we would take anyway. So it's a great feature to make our customers a little bit more happier interacting with the brand.
I'm assuming since it's launched only in one market, it's going to be launched across all your markets in a period of time, because I completely believe so. Again, a lot of business owners I know into the restaurant business, and they're struggling with this marketplaces thing, and they want to create their own experience. And this is true. Even they say the growth of Shopify is bigger than the growth of Amazon, because people want to control the brand experience that they do, rather than be in a marketplace where the marketplace controls the brand experience. So I guess it's even bigger brands, even the smaller brands are going towards Shopify, saying that, okay, I want to control my experience the way the consumer wants.
Absolutely. And I think that it becomes infinitely more important for customers who are loyal to the brand, that we give them access to a channel that they can interact directly with the brand, as opposed to through third-party marketplaces. Sorry, you had asked a question. I missed it.
No, it wasn't a question. So I was just mentioning about how it's even the smaller brands trying to get into a space where they want to control the experience. Even in restaurant brands, there's so many players out there now today who are trying to give them unique experiences for the brand point of view, because so much of the behavior has gone online now. And this marketplaces, it's not maybe for bigger brands sustainable, but not so much for the smaller brands where the margins are under tremendous pressure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So coming to this online behavior change, so did COVID bring around a huge change? Do you think these changes are permanent on this online behavior, or do you think it's something that It's a need of the hour, it will serve its period, or do you think these changes are going to be a permanent things once these restrictions open up and people will rush back to the restaurants?
Fantastic question. There are two parts again to that answer, to my answer. So the first thing is, I think the shift to online from offline channels has been happening for the last, 2 decades in different markets. Maybe in this market, it has been over a decade. And that will continue. I don't think that customer behavior has changed per se. What COVID has done is it actually accelerated the adoption of online channels.
Okay.
So if you look at people like my mom, who has never transacted online, and now suddenly she finds herself in Dubai, if I'm working and she needs something, rather than walking to the shop that's across the street from us, because of COVID, she would prefer to order online. And now she's well equipped with the workflow of how these things work. We have now onboarded a whole new customer base onto these digital channels. So if anything, we've accelerated that transition that was happening anyway. I don't think that transition can be stopped. Now, as far as customers rushing back to restaurants, my personal perspective on this is there are moments in my family life. So I have 2 kids. My wife and me and my 2 kids, depending on different occasions, choose different places to go to. It's almost like a place for family time. And I think to the extent that there has to be something that's done, I do think there is a place for food there. How much it is, I don't know, is anybody's guess. I do some brands that I actually like to go to and eat. So I would certainly be looking to those brands. And the second part of the question is, especially because of COVID, whether customers go back or not is a matter of trust. As an example, there's a coffee shop. I'm not going to name the brand because it's a pretty large brand and I like it. I don't want to endorse them publicly. I like to go there because it's next to my house and they have a drive-through. So it makes me feel quite secure transacting with the business during COVID times because my mom is here and she's older than 60. And as the COVID information goes, a high risk population base. So I would like to avoid as many interactions as possible in the restaurants as of today. But the drive-through ability gives me, the option to interact while limiting my interaction or exposure to as many people, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. So I guess it's a matter of time. It finds its own balance. And you're right about new customers. For example, my dad, for the initial part, his online experience was he asked me to buy online. So can you order this for me? And it comes home. Then over a period of time, he started feeling that, okay, this is a necessity. This has come into things like I driving my own car, or getting a driver. So I can't be dependent on the driver for this. I need something that I will do myself. It brings a new consumer base. So I was talking to the HP head of e-commerce, and he was talking about how older people have now started ordering laptops and stuff which never used to happen online before. They wanted to touch and feel, and they're now completely dependent to be online. So yes, it brought a new set of consumers who fought this for years.
Absolutely. They've fought tooth and nail. So when we had a slight segue, but growing up, we got our first telephone in India in the 1990s, early 1990s. And when we got it, my grandmother, who was at the time already like 80 plus, didn't realize the impact of what phones have. But between the age of 80 and 90, like as she realized that more and more people were getting these phones, landlines, she started maintaining a phone book. With numbers, and she knew exactly whose number was where in the phone book. And that was the extent to which she educated herself, because it was becoming a necessity for her to keep in touch with family members. And it's a very similar situation now. Once you start getting used to it, the world is yours to take, right? The entire world is in your palm. So makes it quite easy.
Yeah. On the note of numbers, I have to remember all the phone numbers, and we don't. But yeah. So I guess as an e-commerce marketer, numbers play a huge role in your day-to-day decision making, and that's one of the biggest joy of, because there's number to look at and take decision making. How big a role does it play for your decision making process, the numbers?
As with any other business, I think people who are aware of their data are the ones that are going to do well in business. And data, of course, plays a very critical point in terms of e-commerce. There are objectives that we want to set, for ourselves. As an example, if 100 people come to my website and I notice that 90 people are just leaving without interacting with the brand, that becomes a KPI for me to say, how do I minimize the number of people that are leaving without interacting? Because the first part as an e-commerce manager is for me to present the face of the brand and the offers and the value deals that we have at Pizza Hut to our customers. And if they are leaving without interacting, that means they're not even getting a chance to review the offers that we have for them that are specifically tailored for them, the experience that we can give them. So once we set that as a KPI, then there are a plethora of tools available that give us access to this data and to test various scenarios. And it could be something as simple as what impacts the customer's behavior on the website, whether they proceed to the next page to view the deals or not. Is it the color of a banner? Is it the content of the banner, and so on? So we do tests on these. It's called A/B testing in the e-commerce world. So we do a lot of A/B testing to figure out what our customers' preferences are, and as a result of those preferences, then we incorporate those changes into the website to ensure that the customers' access to the website and the user journey is as easy as possible. And at the end of the day, once we make it easy, then we hope that the customers will proceed to the next step of the journey. And that's the goal.
Do you even use heat maps on the website to make sure that A/B testing on the website also is just A/B testing in the ads that you do?
No, I was not talking about the ads. I was actually talking on the website and the mobile app itself.
Okay.
Yeah. So media is actually part of another manager's responsibility in our organization. And I'm sure they do that as part of their day-to-day work. So for me, everything is about how do I enhance the experience of the website itself, and how do I enhance the experience on mobile apps.
Yeah. So you've got both app and the website.
That's right. We don't have apps in all the markets, but they're coming. Keep your eyes and ears open. They're coming very soon before June next year. We'll have it in pretty much every market in the region.
Yeah. That brings to my next question, because you would have had to go at a scale which you did not see in the month of Feb, for example. The scaling up would have been have been a nightmarish admin-filled job, because and we all know that adoption of online thing wasn't pretty slow before COVID. Now suddenly people would have been coming to you asking you for help on the online. So how has been the sudden, like top down, bottom up 360-degree scaling that you needed to do suddenly overnight in the last 5 to 6 months? How has been the experience? What has been the learnings?
Great insight. Actually, it's true, especially when it comes to online payments. The adoption in the region was non-existent pretty much. And there were about 3 markets which had online payments available before COVID. And once COVID started, of course, the penetration of online payments started to increase as customers preferred contactless payment methodologies. And the interest from our franchise partners also increased to suddenly incorporate online payments into, of course, every website that's available. So lots of long hours, lots of interactions with partners. Another interesting thing about this region, which is unique, I think, primarily to this region, is that there are very limited options which are both cost-effective and cross-border when it comes to online payments. The interactions become a little bit more tedious because there are different partners in different parts of the world that you have to work with. So if I was working, for example, in Europe, and PayPal is widely accepted in Europe, I could integrate into one platform and expand the same to other regions within Europe. I'm sure there are other payment gateways or payment processors and acquirers in Europe that similarly transact across borders. Here, the options are quite limited. There are a couple of players, but for a large business, they tend not to be cost effective. And then there are players that are local to each market that provide a really cost effective solution. But of course, the one-time implementation time is a little bit longer because you're implementing the same kind of process, but with different partners in different countries. So quite a lot of discussions, long hours. But yeah, we are on the path to making sure every market is able to provide contactless payment options.
In the public sphere, which you want to talk in terms of growth or something like that, or
I'm actually not sure. In terms of whether our numbers specific to online are published or not. So I'll skip that question.
Okay, great. Yeah. So in terms of now, you have had experience across different industries. So I'll take a step back from QSR marketeer and try to nudge into as overall e-commerce as a category.
Yeah.
I'm very excited. You worked in Noon also, which was a marketplace, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel that the future is a marketplace, or do you feel the future is own website, or it's a mix and match of both for overall e-commerce?
I think it's a mix. I think it's a mix and match. There will be a future with marketplaces, and some of these marketplaces are actually great partners for the brand as well, in terms of expanding the product availability to customer base that may not directly have interacted with the Pizza Hut brand. But at the same time, like I was touching upon earlier in the conversation, it's important for brands to be where the customers are and to ensure that brands are providing an interface to whatever the customers, however the customers want to interact with the brand. I see a mixed future for sure. And I think there would be a tug of war between internally for businesses, and I'm not talking specific to Pizza Hut, but I'm talking across the industry, tug of war between how do you increase one channel versus the other, or where do you focus at any given point in time. And I'm sure there will be plenty of debates around the table that in that topic.
Yeah, so it's always the case when a new channel does come up. I remember the good old days. So when it was general retail, then the hypermarkets picked up. So there was this conflict between general retail and hypermarkets. Now hypermarkets and online. So there's this debate between which is. So I guess it's an ongoing thing when a new channel does come up. But I think the future is already here. Unfortunately, because of COVID, it's fast tracked into what it is today, leading to permanent. That's my viewpoint. A lot of semi-permanent changes in consumer behavior. Anything you wanted to close your podcast with? Anything that you think is going to add value?
There's also one more thing, just continuing on that thought. When customers interact with brands, especially food brands, I think there's one key component that I think it becomes a decision point, right? When they select a brand. And if I'm walking down a strip mall and I see that there are 10 stores and one of them is really decked up and good lighting, new furniture and everything, of course, you'd automatically get attracted to a place like that. And online marketplaces are no different. It's a virtual strip mall. So how do you ensure that your product stands out? How do you ensure that your product is the one that customers are attracted to and walk through the door? That will remain the eternal challenge for e-commerce managers such as myself. For customers, the question that comes up is, I think, especially in this world, as we see the change, and my expectation is that this situation will probably run us through maybe March or June of next year. And if it does, the question is trust. What do customers trust more in terms of interacting with brands like Pizza Hut? And I think I used to eat Pizza Hut before I joined. And I'm not saying this as an employee of Pizza Hut, but when I was in the US and UK, plenty of times we've been to Pizza Hut, but I didn't know the rigor that goes into the QA process. And now, as somebody that has seen backend, I feel more confident taking my kids to Pizza Hut than to some unknown brand somewhere or lesser known brand somewhere, just because we are not aware of the processes and the type of quality assurance that they go through and the rigor that they go through. And I think that has been important for the last 6 months, and I think that will continue to be important for the next 6 as well, 6 and even longer.
Yeah, on the note of kids and Pizza Hut, so I keep telling my son, who am I going to interview? He's never turned he's 11-year-old, he's never turned his face and said, okay. So the first time he had a second level of question. Oh, Pizza Hut, who are you interviewing? Where did you get him from? Blah, blah.
Bring him over one day. We'll take him to a Pizza Hut together, and I'm happy to buy him a pizza. He'll taste the best one, I'm sure. Once we go to Pizza Hut, he'll taste the best pizza that's available.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So I guess there's a lot of emotional attachment to a brand as pizza. So I guess all the best for your e-commerce to scale to all these countries by next June. Hopefully, you'll have all the apps and the website up and line in all the places. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Srikanth. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Have a good day.